Welcome to CFOF Unplugged. Today we're getting real about close acceleration, why speed comes from reducing uncertainty. Ready to get unplugged? Let's go. Close acceleration has become one of the most common goals in finance. Shorter close cycles, faster reporting, earlier insight into performance. On the surface, that makes sense. The faster you close, the faster the business can act. But here's what I see consistently. Most organizations try to accelerate the close by pushing harder on speed. More effort, more urgency, more pressure on the team. And when that happens, the close might get a little faster, but it also becomes more fragile, more dependent on people, more dependent on late nights, more dependent on things going right. That is not acceleration. That is compression. Close acceleration is not about moving faster. It's about removing uncertainty. If you look closely at why closes run long, it is almost never because there is too much work. It's because there are too many unresolved questions. Questions about data, questions about ownership, questions about whether something is complete or not. And those questions tend to show up day 4, day 5, right when the team is trying to finish. But the reality is, those issues did not start there. They were there all along. They were just not visible early enough. The close is not a process, it's a diagnostic. It exposes how well your finance organization actually operates. When the close struggles, it usually shows up in very predictable ways. First, unclear ownership. People are not fully sure who owns specific account, reconciliation, and decisions. Work gets handed off, then handed back, then escalated. Not because people are not capable, but because ownership was never clearly defined. Second, inconsistent processes. The same activity gets done differently depending on the person, the team, or the month. That variability creates friction, and friction slows everything down. Third, late issue discovery. Problems surface during the close instead of before it. Adjustments get made at the last minute. Numbers move late in the cycle. Confidence drops as speed increases. And this is where you see it in more complex areas. Take percentage of completion accounting. If project forecasts are not finalized before the close, your revenue recognition is not stable. Or what about transfer pricing? If those allocations are still being debated during the close, you're not closing. You are negotiating. Or tax. If legal entity forecasts are not aligned, your effective tax rate accrual becomes a last-minute adjustment. In all of those cases, the issue is not the close. It is that the inputs are not ready before the close started. This is where many organizations make the wrong move. They look at the close, see delays, and assume the answer is new technology, a close management tool, workflow automation, AI-assisted reconciliations, and those tools can absolutely help, but they do not remove uncertainty. They organize it. If ownership is unclear, the tool will show you who is late. It will not tell you who should have owned it. If the process is inconsistent, the tool will standardize the inconsistency. It will not fix the underlying variation. If issues are discovered late, the tool will track them more efficiently. But they are still late. Intercompany is one of the clearest examples of this, especially in manufacturing environments. You have inventory moving between entities. You have margin embedded in those transfers, and often the product had not even reached the end customer yet. So now you're trying to match transactions that are economically connected but operationally out of sync. You can put a tool on top of that. You can automate matching. But if the underlying timing and process are not aligned, the mismatch still exists. You just see them faster. Technology accelerates what already exists. If you want to accelerate the close, you have to shift your focus from speed to structure, from activity to clarity. There are 3 moves that consistently make a difference. 1, every account, every task, every decision needs a clear owner. Not shared ownership, not implied ownership, clear ownership. Someone who is accountable for getting it done, and just as important, someone who is accountable for deciding when it is done. When ownership is clear, handoffs become cleaner, escalations become faster, and the close starts to move with more confidence. The close should not depend on heroics. It should be repeatable. That does not mean rigid. It means consistent enough that the teams know what good looks like every time. And this is where the heroics tend to show up. People staying late, fixing issues manually, bridging gaps that should not exist, and over time, that becomes normal. But heroics are not a sign of a strong close. They are a sign that the process is carrying hidden risk. And third, this is the biggest lever. The best finance teams do not wait for the close to find problems. They surface them before the close begins. They reconcile earlier. They validate data earlier. They address anomalies earlier. One simple example is reconciliations. Many teams try to reconcile everything during the close, every account, every balance, and that feels disciplined. But in reality, it pushes work into the most time-constrained part of the cycle. High-performing teams treat reconciliation as a continuous process. So by the time the close starts, most of the work's already done. And what remains is focused, not overwhelming. At that point, the close becomes less about discovery and more about confirmation. This is where mid-market finance teams are in a strong position. Fewer layers, shorter feedback loops, closer alignment between finance and operations. You do not need a large transformation program to improve the close. You need clarity, discipline, and alignment. Those are leadership decisions, not system decisions. If you take one thing away from this, close acceleration is not about going faster. It's about reducing uncertainty. When uncertainty is removed, decisions happen faster, work flows more smoothly, confidence increases, and speed becomes a byproduct, not the goal. So here's the question I would leave with you. Is your close slower than it should be? Where is uncertainty still hiding? That is where the real work is. Thanks for listening to CFOF Unplugged, where we are redefining finance one conversation at a time.